A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone that is joining us today for our webinar on turning data into donations. My name is Liz and I'm excited to be your host for this session, and joining us as our guest speaker in a few minutes is Grant Gevers from Sage Intact, and Grant will be taking us through the key metrics of data that charities should be using and how you can communicate these metrics in the best way. So you'll learn quite a lot, including how to measure these metrics and an insight into what donors want to know and the metrics that they care about before making that donation to your organization. Before I ask Grant to introduce himself, I'll just quickly whiz through some house rules. Please feel free to ask questions at any time in the Q&A, and we'll answer these at the end of the presentation. You can also vote for a question that you like with a thumbs up. We do have closed captions available, and you can turn these on by clicking on the CC closed caption button. Feel free to share your experiences and any advice and tips during the webinar via the chat function. We all do gain so much from sharing and learning from each other, and it makes our sessions a lot more interactive too. So feel free, start the chat off if you want and tell us where you're joining us from this afternoon. We are also recording this session, and the recording together with the slides and resources will be available on our website soon. We will let you know when these are ready via email, so you can look out for that. Sometimes we can experience connection issues. If this happens, just flag it up in the chat if I haven't picked up on it, and my colleagues in the back end will jump in and sort these out for us. Okay, that's it. Grant, I'm going to pass over to you to get this webinar rolling. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us as our guest speaker. And I'm going to now switch my camera off, so I'm not going to be a distraction for your presentation. And yeah, I'll leave it up to you now.
Great. Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you.
Glad to be joining you all from a very sunny afternoon here in Worcestershire. So my name is Grant Gevers, and I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant here on the Sage Intact team. And my focus is on the non-profit vertical. And I'm going to be taking us through today's webinar, so outcome metrics that matter, turning data into donations. So on today's agenda, firstly, we're going to look at what are outcome metrics and why are they so important. We'll also be looking at why it's vital that you choose outcome metrics which align with your mission under linking metrics to your mission. I'm going to show you how you can connect with your funders using your data under turning data into donations. And then under the technology that makes it work section, I'm going to be engaging with you as a live audience. We've got a poll, and then we head off into a little mini demonstration of Sage Intact. And then, as Liz mentioned before, you will be receiving a copy of this presentation. So I have actually included some reference or some links to some of the documentation and reports that I'm going to be referencing throughout today's webinar in the resources section at the end. All right, so let's get started. So what are outcome metrics and why are they so important? So outcome metrics, sorry, I'm just trying to work out where to put my camera. There you go, just minimize it rather. So outcome metrics are powerful and essential tools for demonstrating accountability and transparency. And they can measure financial as well as non-financial criteria that reflect the efficiency and impact of your programs and initiatives. So they are derived by carefully defining outcome indicators, data collection methods, analytical techniques, and then collectively showing the performance of these through reporting. Now, these outcome metrics go by various names and fit in many different categories. And many nonprofits obtain their best results by measuring across multiple dimensions for blended scorecards that encompass activities, capacities, financial results, and other metrics. Your organization's programs could grow rapidly, but without considering capacity and sustainability, the programs and their impact will come to an end. So ultimately, well-defined outcome measures will help organizations to continuously adapt and improve, which is why they are so important. So when defining your organization's outcome metrics, it's good to keep in mind that they only really deliver value if they are tightly linked to your core values and mission. Otherwise, there's simply a resource draining distraction. So I want to share this example with you from the Nature Conservancy, who are a global environmental nonprofit whose mission is to preserve the diversity of plants and animals by protecting the habitat of various species around the world. So for over 50 years, they measured what became known as bucks and acres. So how much money they raised and how many acres they acquired to protect. And while this was very successful for them for many years, they eventually realized it didn't adequately measure the progress of the organization towards achieving its overall mission. So after spending a lot of time and many iterations later, the Conservancy settled on a simple framework to measure performance. It's known as the family of measures, and it can be used by any nonprofit organization. So I'm sharing this with you as a template, which can really help you as you sit down to choose metrics that matter to your mission and values. So they experimented, revised, and determined a simplified approach that truly measures what matters to a nonprofit organization. So as you can see here on the grid, we start with mission and vision. Then define what are the goals and strategies supporting the mission and vision. And then we see the tactics and activities underlying those goals and strategies. So we are looking at impact metrics, activity metrics, and capacity metrics. Now, it's critical to consider all of these together as they do balance each other out. And you'll see that this concept of balancing forms a bit of a theme as we continue through the presentation. Now, as we all know, funding is becoming more and more competitive. So we all need to define what success looks like and then measure it, monitor it, and report on it, and then share those results with your entire network. Funding opportunities are going to be strengthened when you have solid metrics measured and reported on regularly. Accountability is vital, especially as you grow. And as you may already know, a lot of charity evaluators use very specific KPIs to rate nonprofits, and their ratings significantly affect funding and the view that potential funders have of your organization. I think it's really interesting as well that they are no longer just looking at financial metrics, but they also track your outcome impact measures, how you perform, and how you share those results with your network. Stewardship is critical in all areas of your organization, from operations through to development to program initiatives and accounting. So defining, tracking, and measuring where you are and where you want to be is going to demonstrate good stewardship and show that you are achieving your goals. Being a good steward will also help to improve funding and enhance your credibility and reputation as you as you are transparent with your supporters, you will also positively impact your growth. So outcome metrics are part of the structural foundation for growth and ultimately the success of your mission. So hopefully you can see the leverage and strength measuring these outcomes bring to your overall performance and your impact and return on mission. All these data components are hugely important to fundraising and ultimately to securing donations. So the data you generate as a nonprofit is telling a story. So as you share that story with those who are supporting your cause, you invite them to walk alongside you on your journey. and it really helps to keep them engaged. So more than ever, everybody is focused on accountability, stewardship, and results. With a lot of competition for funding, charities that show financial responsibility, as well as program investment, results, and impact, will give themselves the best opportunity to secure donations. Many funders are requiring more performance and outcome measures to ensure that they're getting their return on investment that they're anticipating. And while factors beyond metrics often influence a donor's giving, visibility and the call for greater transparency into your outcome metrics is not just encouraged, but is now expected. So we spoke a little bit already about the influence that charity evaluators have on your charity and how it's perceived by donors and in your community. Now, but your community support is also critical, and this includes everyone within your network. So from charities with a similar mission to your own, to donors and funders, and to your own organization's trustees. So as you start measuring and sharing metrics for your mission, you're going to encourage accountability and more transparency among other organizations and really help build the credibility and reputation for the sector overall. Now, it's important to consider all metrics across impact, activities, and capacity to ensure that you're getting a balanced view of your overall mission. So as we start to talk about transparency and performance metrics and KPIs, one question is often asked, and that is, what are the most important areas to measure? So are we talking about outcome and impact, or are we talking about financial performance? Are we talking about capacity and sustainability? What about activity and program success or fundraising? So the reality is that, beg your pardon. That was that. That the reality is that you need to measure and adapt a balanced approach. So to look at all areas which are critical, not just to your mission success and impact, but also look seriously at the sustainability of your organization's programs and initiatives. This is why a balanced approach is so important. It also needs to involve the entire organization so that everyone is participating and is clear about your mission and vision. And they need to have visibility of the key metrics across all aspects of the organization. And that's really what's going to help to drive success. Now, it can be a little overwhelming on where to start in your organization if this is a new process for you. So I wanted to share some of the most commonly used outcome metrics that might be a good place to start. So the first one is fundraising efficiency. So what this is how much do you spend to raise a pound? And the formula is unrestricted fundraising expenses divided by total unrestricted contributions raised. And most modern accounting systems can easily track and tag expenses and revenues and automatically calculate and report on this key metric. But for example, if you host a fund run that say raises 100,000 and it costs you 20,000 to host, your fundraising efficiency is then 20,000 divided by 100,000, which will give you 20p. So it costs you 20p to raise £1. So fundraising efficiency is really shows how efficiently your organization is at raising funds. Next is operating reliance. So here again, adopting a balanced approach, you want to make sure that you're looking at impact from programs and sustainability from the financial side. So this is unrestricted program revenues, which could be revenue from ticket sales or membership fees, any unrestricted inflow from operations that can be spent at the discretion of your organization, then divided by total expenses. This gives managers, board members, and potential funders a real gauge of the financial sustainability of your nonprofit organization. Operating reliance is so important because this metric is all about your overall impact and sustainability. Then if we look at program efficiency, now there's a lot of different views and perspectives on this metric, but it's always going to be important to many charity evaluators, to board members, to potential donors, because it clearly indicates program and mission priority. It's one of those indicators that give that balanced perspective to your performance. Program efficiency works out how much your organization is spending on its primary mission, and the calculation is total program services expenses divided by total expenses. So program efficiency then gives you a ratio of what is being spent on overheads versus your programs. Finally, then you have to define those mission critical outcome measures which track and measure your specific impact and performance. And I'm going to give you some examples on the next slide. I've also included here some helpful resources to help with defining metrics which matter to your organization. So here we can see some metrics measuring mission impact, which are a great example, which when communicated will enable you to connect with your donors. Now it's good to keep in mind, or good practice would be, as you consider each of these impacts, to think about the financial implications and sustainability of each of these impacts. And that helps you, with that balanced approach. And I've seen this used to great success, especially in the minds of those giving. They're able to see the impact that their donations will have. So turning data into donations is not just a one-off exercise. It's something that you have to be continually working at. And it's important to be up to date with the current giving trends within the UK. So here's a couple of graphs I've taken from the latest Donor Pulse Giving Trends report for spring this year. So firstly, looking at the percentage of giving, we see despite the significant issues in the background, the number of people giving to charities has hit its highest level since the start of the pandemic, with 76% of the public having donated. The graph also shows that the rise has come equally from under 40s and over 40s, and with an overall increase of 5 percentage points from the last quarter. So really good news. The next graph shows us that all areas across the UK have been affected by the cost of giving crisis. And this is a big issue to be facing the sector at the moment. And splitting this data into regions has also revealed some marked differences across the UK. So it's worth considering some geographic targeting for areas that are doing comparatively better. The report also shows that overall, 53% of people in the UK are finding it harder to give than compared to just 6 months ago. But to leave it on a positive note, 54% of the public is happy to take part again in physical events, but are still interested in attending virtual events. So the link to the full report, as I mentioned before, is available under the resources section, and for you to see how you can maximize your reach. So those charities who are communicating the data they are generating give themselves the best chance of securing donations. So in the latest supporter experience report by Blackboard, it shows that of the nonprofits that participated, those that scored highly are those that engaged with their data. So 79% of those that scored highly are making the most of the data, or their own data, compared to 35% of those with low scores. I thought it's really interesting to see that distinction. Also in the report, Mark Stevens, head of fundraising at Wales Air Ambulance, after introducing an annual supporter survey, said that after getting feedback, said 30% of their supporters didn't know if their donations made a difference, which came as a real shock to the charity, but it was valuable information that they uncovered by being inquisitive with their data. And they're really starting to see the benefits of engaging with their data in many ways. And again, the full report is available in the resources section. So here is a great example of impact metrics on display. So this is something I came across earlier this year. You can immediately see the impact that the Royal Navy and Royal Marines charity is having to support veterans. I particularly like the 1,253 face-to-face and telephone online counseling sessions delivered. And it's a good example of bringing all of those metrics and putting it together on one page for those who browse in the website to see. In the next example, you can start to see more of a balanced view. So we can see here's a great example which communicates clearly to those donating exactly how much is going towards the actual cause. So you have transparency of support costs, how much is going to fundraising, and 84% of what is donated is going directly towards the cause, which the funder is looking to support. So a good example of complete transparency using a balanced approach, and certainly in my mind builds a lot of credibility. So choosing technology. Technology can really help your organization in producing outcome metrics, even reporting on these in real time. Now, it's really important that when choosing a financial solution, that you select a solution that's going to give you multiple dimensions to be able to report across all the various divisions that make up your nonprofit organization. So choosing a cloud solution like Sage Intacct means that you're always on the most up-to-date version of the system. And from a technology standpoint, things like security and performance are no longer things that you need to worry about as an organization. And things like two-factor authentication and single sign-on are available as standard. And you can have that peace of mind that your data is secure. Intacct will also simplify your reporting and even automate the sending out of report packs based on a schedule. And Sage Intacct can also connect to other operational systems, like, for example, your fundraising CRM system, to allow you to calculate your fundraising efficiency, as an example. So Intacct is a best-in-class finance application that was designed really to connect to other best-of-breed applications. So before we move on to the live demonstration, let's go and do our live poll. So in the live poll, I've just asked the question, what are of the outcome metrics we've covered today, which are currently in use by everybody who's listening today? It is multiple choice, so feel free just to put down all of your answers, and I'll just give you a moment or two. All right, so I think the results are in. There you go. So very interesting. We've got, if I just run through the results very quickly, under fundraising efficiency of everybody listening today, where 32% are using fundraising efficiency, operating reliance, 14%, program efficiency, 14%, none of the above, 49%, and other, 14%. Okay, so even for those who are using the metrics, I want to, in our next section, look at some of the technology and how Intacct can make this process a lot easier for you. Now, from the moment you log into Sage Intacct, Intacct is giving you real-time business data on dashboards to help gauge the health of your nonprofit organization. The system is highlighting key areas that may need your attention and focus. And you can see on the screen here a combination of non-financial and financial data. So we can see things like gifts received, and we can see the total amount of gifts received. You can then start to build formulas to report on things like what is my average gift amount by just dividing total gifts received by the gifts received number. Now, Intacct will let you capture all of your non-financial data that's critical to your mission through a statistical journal. Now, you'll see that on the statistical journal, you've got a separate statistical chart of accounts through which you can create as many separate accounts as you need. And you can also start to take advantage of all of those dimensions here as well. Now, this is an area that we would look to pull information from additional operational systems, like maybe your fundraising platform, to pull this non-financial data in. Once you have your non-financial data, you can then start to report on it and build it into your standard reports as well. So if I scroll down here, you can see we've got a program expenditure report where we're looking at a cost per veteran in this example. I can see expenditure, all the various costs incurred across all of the programs. Underneath the programs, I can see the total or the number of veterans served within each program. I can then divide the cost by the number of veterans to work out cost per veteran. So great to be able to see at a glance whether or not you need to go and secure any more funding for these programs. Intacct is also using conditional formatting, highlights particular trends within your data. And you can see here using sparkline analysis, you can see how individual expenses are trending within the range of data used. So there's lots of different ways of presenting data. You've got here meals served, so we can drill down into this non-financial data to see the number of meals served. And then we can also see in the middle here, what is the financial implication of these meals served. Now, Intacct will let you engage with teams and individuals in a social media type experience through the Intacct Collaborate tool. You can also get a better handle on some of your internal processes using checklist functionality. So things like grant consideration or maybe your month-end close. So Intacct, just on month-end close, it's one of those areas that we like to go back and revisit because Intacct operates a virtual close in real time. So you can always see what the balance is sitting in your retained earnings account. And if you want to close a period, it's just a matter of closing it using securities. So now you can see some of the more traditional reports like your SOFA report, broken up by unrestricted versus restricted funds. And all of the information that we see in the dashboard is dynamic. So we're not looking at static information here. We can drill down into underlying information. So for example, if I'm looking at my expenses here, I can drill down into office expenses. I can then see office expenses broken out by different departments. I can drill down into, say, program services, and then see all of the underlying transactions that make up this number. I can drill into a source transaction, and you'll see that on a transaction, you've got all of the information you need. So we can see this is fully paid. We can drill through to payments and then open up any attached documents. So this is great if you've got auditors in, no one needs to be running around looking for documentation for them. They've got access to all of the documents using the reports. Now scrolling down here to the bottom, here you can see the benefit that having a tool like Collaborate brings. You can capture all of the communications that happened around this transaction at that point in time to really help from an audit perspective. Now, next, I just wanted to show you very quickly how easy it is to add additional metrics So if we come back to our performance cards across the top here, I want to add a performance card to show us the total number of veterans that have been looked after. So you'll see that you've got various component types that you can pull onto the dashboards to measure outcomes and metrics. So this is a performance card. And in here, I just want to type in here total number of veterans. And I'm going to base this on an account group called clients served. Now, because that's when I look at current year, and because this is non-financial data, I want to show this as a number. And I'll leave the comparisons as they are. So because we're looking at prior period would be, in this case, prior year. Now, over on the filters, you can see, you can start to filter and show performance cards for individual programs or departments across the organization. But what I want to do here is just look at the total number of veterans across all locations. So we can save that. And you'll see immediately Intact is then giving you the total number of veterans that are being looked after. You can see how much we've increased compared to the prior year. Now, Intact will also let you, just thinking about stewardship and accountability and looking after revenue that you receive through grants, will allow you to keep track of all of your grant revenue within the system. So this tends to be held in Excel spreadsheets outside of the system for a lot of charities. And here you can see a list of all of the grants that have been received, the original amount that was awarded, and we can see the revenue that we've taken so far, how much is remaining. And then using the grant dimension, you can tag all of the transactions that we're looking to reimburse through this grant. And it builds up a total or running total of remaining funds as well. So Intact will let you capture all of your grant information under the grants section here. And in addition to grants, you can also capture things like projects and events and record how they are funded. So you can see we've got a grant here that's funding a project and an event. And we also have a project that's funded by multiple grants. So Intact can handle either of those scenarios. You can keep track of all of the grants that you've made applications for. You can see the time frame that they apply over and record any restriction designation. So looking at transactions that are tagged, we can drill through to this number here under this grant. We can then see a list of all of the transactions that are we're looking to reimburse, and you can tag purchase invoices, expenses, and timesheets, and all types of transactions. And if I drill through to an invoice, you'll see that over on the detail line here, this is where we record that grant information. So we've got our grants. We've also got class, which is how you can then report on restricted versus unrestricted funds. And with Intact, you could also opt for the automated billing option. So if I tick that checkbox, then Intact will automatically generate the reimbursement invoices. So coming back to our dashboard here, looking at grant funding, here you can see Intact will give you reports on how on all the grant revenue that you've received. We can see that broken out by the last couple of years and how that money has then been allocated across the business. You can also budget against individual grants to keep in line with any financial conditions that have been set. And then using the dimensions, you can start to filter information that you see on the dashboard. So if I come down to at the top here, look at grants. Here, I can see all of the individual grants that we've received. You can start to create groups of grants. If I apply that, using the same set of reports and dashboards, then I can filter this reporting information and see exactly how much I have sitting in those grants and where that money was spent. And then if I want to see how much I have in unrestricted funds, I can then select unrestricted funds, apply that, and I can see exactly how much is available in unrestricted funds. Now, coming back to our outcome metrics here, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what underpins all of the reporting that I've shown you. So Intact, what we talk about within Intact is the 3 pillars of Intact. So that's the foundation for all of the reporting. Intact will give you a centralized set of reports for you to create and maintain. And then under that, you've got the 3 pillars. So the entities you can create, have a single environment to hold all of your entities and locations, which could be things like shops or different accommodation or clinics or whatever it is that you have. And you can then start to look and analyze at the performance of each of those locations. You've got a shared chart of accounts and that you can utilize to really lower the burden of administration on your finance department. And then using the dimensions, you can start to do dimensional analysis at a group level as well. So to look at how your programs and initiatives are performing, but for the entire group. So just very quickly, if I go over to the fundraising efficiency. So as I mentioned also about Intact being able to link into other applications. So here's a good example of that, where we're looking at fundraising efficiency. This report or this dashboard can be filled with information that's coming from your fundraising platform. And you can see that you can start to track things like how profitable are your various campaigns that you're running. You can see contribution trends, and also you can see that fundraising efficiency outcome metric that we looked at earlier. Okay, so that's all I wanted to run through with you on within the demo portion. So if I just come back, just in concluding, what we've seen is how outcome metrics are vital to the growth and sustainability of your organization. We've seen how using technology such as Sage Intacct will bring structure and reporting efficiency to your data and give you a holistic view of your nonprofit organization, and will really help you communicate your impact and success to your supporters and to keep them engaged and donating to your cause. Okay, so we go into the Q&A section.
Hi, Grant. I'm back again. Hello.
Hi,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, if we've got anyone that wants to post a question on there, can you please do it now? In the meantime, I've just got a few questions. Could I run through those with you, Grant? Would that be okay?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, first of all, for that session. It was really interesting. We've got loads of valuable takeaways. So that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just wanted to ask you, Grant, how many dimensions can the system create?
So there are 7 dimensions as standard normally, and for most nonprofits we would include an additional dimension that would be the grants. So you would have 8 dimensions all in all. You can create as many values or dimensions underneath each dimension type, and even create hierarchical structures under each of those dimensions. Okay, so can your system integrate? I know that it's sort of a lot of charities in the charity sector, they have Salesforce as a software. Can it integrate easily and seamlessly with Salesforce? Yes. So Salesforce happens to be one of our strategic partners. So we have actually got quite an in-depth integration available to Salesforce. Okay, that's really interesting. And there was, as I was sort of going through and watching, and I was just wanted to ask you about the types of reports that you can create in the system. So there's a combination of financial reports. You can include that non-financial data, as we saw. I kept it kind of brief, but there's lots of different reports that you can create. And I think importantly is you can start to include all of that information from additional operational systems and pull that into your finance system and start to build meaningful metrics for boards, members and trustees to look at. And it can be automated as well. So you can include that on like scheduled report packs that can be sent out at the end of the month.
Okay, great, thanks. We've just got a quick question from Nikki there. Does Sage Intacct integrate with Donor Strategy CRM?
I don't think that's one that we have, but we have got an integration partner. So if there's anything that's that we've not integrated with before, we would just look to integrate using the partner.
Using that partner there. Yeah. Okay, so when it sort of comes for I would imagine that when you've got processes through, you've got approval processes for like supply invoices and things like that.
Yes, so as you would expect from a best-in-class finance application, we've got approval processes everywhere. So we, through our purchasing journal approvals, payment approvals, on every process to really help accounts departments. It's not just giving you the structure for the reports and data, but also helps from a process perspective as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So what about the data? It can be drilled down from entity to specific transaction data, departmental transaction data.
Yes. Yeah. So from the top level, you can drill through right to a source transaction, as I demonstrated earlier, and you can set that up if you want, or sometimes we asked if we can turn that off because it may be that you don't want users to be drilling down into the underlying information, and the answer is definitely you can turn it off, and you can just present static reports if you prefer to do that. Okay.
So if a charity was interested and wanted to find out more, what would be the steps that they have to take?
So I think on the resources section of the...
You had another slide, didn't you, Grant? You just want to share that. So yeah, yes, people can see that slide there. Fantastic.
Yeah, so here he has access to all of the reports that are referenced today and some extra reports as well. And then you can get in touch with us by visiting the website, following us on Twitter, or just giving us a call. Okay, that's fantastic. So charities do know. And as I said before, the recording for this session and those resources will be emailed and will be put on our website as well. I think we're going to wrap it up for today, Grant. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and for joining us. And it's just been a really interesting, valuable session. And there's loads of takeaways there as well. And I just want to flag a few things up for our listeners as well. Don't forget to visit the Charity Digital website to find out more about what's coming up with our events. We've got a charity finance workshop series that is coming back. Actually, it is back, yes. So the second workshop will take place on the 25th of May, and it closes soon, the sign-ups for that. So if you want to quickly get on board, then go to our website and sign up. And also the third finance workshop is on the 8th of June. We've got another webinar on the 19th of May, how to put storytelling at the heart of fundraising, and Be More Digital conference is back in person. We would love to see you there, a physical event at last.